is a radio legend. I'm a loudmouth chef. He's right or right, and I guess I'm a little bit left. We sat down for some debate and a little ass kissing. We got Gerry Callahan on Heat in the Kitchen. All right, welcome to the Heat in the Kitchen podcast. I'm Chef Shemtov. Today I've got Boston radio legend Gerry Callahan with me from the Gerry Callahan podcast.
What's happening, Avi?
Not too much, man. I've been actually listening a lot to your podcast.
Excellent.
I always feel the need to say, like, I'm not saying this just to be nice, and there's plenty of proof you can find out that I rip people when it's time to rip people. But listening, as soon as your podcast came back, we've missed you. We've really missed you on radio.
Thanks.
And it sounds exactly the same. First of all, you've just got like one of those voices where I've listened to it for so long. As soon as you listen to it, it's like I'm back in 2006 listening to sports radio. No, I love that. I think sports radio has gotten so weird.
It's gotten safe. That's what I've said. I think it's dead, to be honest with you. And I'm not just talking about my old station. I'm talking about the culture of sports radio and talk radio in general. It's become a safe space. It's because of a couple things. Social media has made it a lot easier to harass advertisers and management. And I think management has made a decision that they're not going to take any chances. You will not hear anything like, Howard Stern in the 90s or Imus in the old days, or even Dennis and Callahan. I look back at some of the things we did even before Kirk and Callahan and said that wouldn't last a day today. There's just there are people in management who don't have the backbone or the stomach for it, and there's just people out there, activists and groups that have gotten real good at harassing and intimidating advertisers and management.
And for me,
it's chilling. To be honest with you, it's chilling. They know how to shut people up.
Oh, I believe it. And as a listener, like, that's the thing. For me, and again, I'm just one person, but when I listen, I'm always listening for authenticity. Like, to me, I actually say this to people all the time about you. We disagree on a lot of things politically, but I would rather listen. I have a hard time listening. Like, for example, I don't listen to someone like Rachel Maddow. I can't listen to someone who's like, I know what the topic is. I already know what your opinion's going to be. And the person I always compare you to, I hope this isn't offensive, is Bill O'Reilly.
Ooh.
I used to love listening to Bill O'Reilly because every once in a while, he thought about everything and then he came up with his own opinion. So sometimes I would tune in and he was just going somewhere completely different than you would expect him to go.
I liked O'Reilly, and I'll just, for the record, we were both canceled for entirely different reasons. I don't mean
you compare.
I never touched the
I didn't mean
help.
as a person. I didn't mean as a person you compared.
Yes.
That's not what I meant. Not at all.
And you know what? I always think of O'Reilly when I watch Tucker. Tucker Carlson is great. He's better than O'Reilly. He wants to fight. I want to fight. That's why I have Alex Reamer on my podcast. I wish there were more guys like Alex Reamer who weren't afraid to fight. It's kind of crazy. On our show, when Kirk and Callahan was riding high, we were fighting with people every day. We had Trenny and John Tomasi and Alex, and we would have guests on. And some people get tired of it. Some people are afraid of it, and they're afraid they'll say the wrong thing in the heat of the moment. But I'm with you. I would like to hear more people who aren't afraid to disagree, who aren't afraid of the fight. I mean, that's what I do, off the air with my friends. We argue, family, we argue about things. I don't know why you would want to go on a podcast or a radio show and just all agree.
The one thing is, I don't think I'll ever understand the hate for Alex Reamer. Because I think he's very good on the radio. He was very good, and on your podcast, he's very good.
And he's good. He's crazy. He's
right.
Full of life.
Even his stories, most.
I understand.
Stories.
He's a Bernie Sanders guy. That rubs some people the wrong way, but I don't care. I like it. I like the fact that he wants to defend the cranky commie and fight with me about it. He will say something dumb occasionally. He'll get in trouble. I like that. He's the only gay socialist that the Globe hates.
Right.
That should be a badge of honor. And I wish there were more guys like him who came in and weren't afraid to fight about anything.
Right. Well, in the Twitter comments too, like people, I have to believe all those people that are bitching about Alex Reamer being on your podcast. I have to believe they're actually listening, though, right?
I hope so. We used to break it down. Our old program director, Joe Zarbano, would break down each person we had. Kirk and I had on, Tomasi, Trenny,
right.
Mutt, and Reamer. I mean, he would literally break it down to the minute, the ratings for each guy, each person. And Reamer was always up around the top. People would say they don't listen, and they did. And Mutt was always at the bottom.
Right.
And he wasn't really. We just told him that to hurt his feelings. But I hope people aren't tuning out because they disagree with him. That defeats the whole point. We have him here because I disagree with him.
Right. I only tune out to people that bore me. I don't tune out to people that, in fact,
me too.
Right. And honestly, listening to people that, especially sometimes if people who agree with you and are boring, that's the worst. The worst is listening to someone.
I think I stepped back, sometime around, I got dumped in July, around September, October, I stepped back, and I couldn't believe how boring a lot of the sports talk was, how, spent weeks on Antonio Brown's helmet or something. I'm going, was I that boring? I mean, you get too close to the trees, and maybe you get too deep into it, and you think every damn third and 10 call matters to everybody.
Right.
I like to think we weren't that boring, and whether it was Kirk or before that Dino, that we found a more interesting way to break it down and analyze this stuff. But man, the straight sports talk, when you step back, when it doesn't matter to you professionally, seems so dull at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, again, one person with opinion, but I would say no, you weren't that boring. And there's some guys, like, I don't listen to them a lot. I can't, Maz's voice just irks me. And the fact that, like, their entire show is Felger saying something and then Maz going, like, he just completely said the opposite, but then he'll go, no, you're totally right, Mike. You're totally right. But that show, I don't like Felger, and yet I like to listen to him for the same reason.
I don't listen to that either, but for that very reason.
It's so boring.
But other than that, no one on the radio.
Sports over and over and over and over again. And I mean, I like both those guys. And Matt's a friend of mine, but it's not the kind of thing I do in my life where you sit there and you talk about a Patriots game every single day for the next week. No. I mean, every play, and you go. I mean, eventually you're going to say, why don't we talk about whatever, Harvey Weinstein?
Well,
why don't we talk about
Kobe Bryant,
everything, the movie 1917? I mean, have you seen it yet?
No.
Friggin' great.
Okay.
Great. You
What's
must
it
see
about? I don't even.
It's about World War One.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just done
that makes sense.
differently. You got to see it. I think it's going to win the Oscars Best Picture because it's done so well that it's weird, but they follow these two guys, these two soldiers, British soldiers, like all the way through their day. It's like in real time, and it's so intense and so good.
Yeah, war movies, always.
Yeah, I ranked it fourth on my list. Kirk Minahan ranked it first, which is ridiculous, but I ranked it fourth on my top war movies. I would go Platoon, Apocalypse Now, Saving Private Ryan, 1917. That's my list.
Okay. I've seen Saving Private Ryan. I've seen Platoon.
Actually, I just DVR'd. I've seen it, but not in like
It holds
15
up
years.
very
It's been on
intense.
Showtime
Saving
lately.
Private
It's Oliver
Ryan's great.
Stone.
I recorded it like yesterday.
And Saving Private Ryan is one of the. I
incredible.
mean, it's just so great.
Right.
It's so great, and I've seen that probably 20 times. And I don't know if you include like war movies with Braveheart. I don't include it.
Well,
I would say
I wouldn't include that, but
I'd say
but
it'd
maybe
have to
we
be
can debate
after
it.
1900.
Yeah.
That would be my deadline. You
Wars
can't
with
say,
machines, not swords.
Like The Patriot's a great movie. It's about Revolutionary War, or Braveheart's about the British against the Scottish, and it's the best movie ever made. But I don't call it a war movie.
Well, even 1917. I mean, 100 years ago. It's not that long
I don't
ago.
even know anything about World War One. I was
That's- yeah,
embarrassed
right.
when I went to it with my son. Afterwards, we went over there. We're sitting here at the Legacy Club. Went to the ArcLight Theater. Went to eat afterwards, and we talked about it. And I swear to God, I know it started because Archduke Ferdinand got murdered. That's all I know.
Right.
I don't know who was on. I mean, I know we were on the side of the British against the Germans, but I don't know any battles. I don't know how it ended.
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And I didn't learn much from this movie, but it was great.
The only
So
thing
go
I've
see
ever
it.
read
I'll put
about
it on my list.
is just about how Hitler came to power. That's the only,
Right.
that's the only reference
They were
I've
disgruntled because they lost,
Right.
and they were pissed, and he kind of marshaled that anger, and that's led to the rise of Hitler. But my grandfather fought in the war. There's a book about his unit and what they did in Europe, and I didn't know. I still don't know enough.
Cool. I don't know why I would have assumed you'd know a lot about World War One. I don't know why. Maybe it's because you love Kurt Schilling and he's into all that kind of stuff.
He's in a
isn't he?
World War II.
Yeah, I knew he was in
That's
World War
what
II. I
kept
just
him out of
assumed he was in
the
everything.
kept him out of the Hall of Fame because he's a World War II aficionado.
Right.
Yeah.
I've listened to you go on about that, and
It drives me nuts.
yeah, I actually
Annually.
I do. So here's the thing. I don't have a vote, obviously. I would vote for Kurt Schilling. I mean, I think we could talk for days about the fact that he belongs in the Hall of Fame as a baseball pitcher. I do think he's a nutbag. I mean, he's sent me private messages on Facebook at 3:00 in the morning before, going on and on about the fact that what Colin Kaepernick does is different than when he would go on about politics. I wasn't even agreeing with Colin Kaepernick. I was just saying that I think the comment his wife made was that athletes should keep their politics out of it, and I just thought that was a funny thing to say when you're married to Kurt Schilling.
I think I will defend Kurt Schilling in many ways. Sure. I think the reason they're different is Schilling backs up his crazy opinions. He'll fight you all day on Twitter, on Facebook, in person.
Yeah, I actually respect
Colin
that.
Kaepernick doesn't have the guts to debate anybody, anywhere, ever. I mean, we don't even know exactly why he kneels. He doesn't tell you. That's what drives me nuts.
So I'll say this about Colin Kaepernick. I think, for me, again, being someone who's pretty middle of the road, he lost me with the socks. Like, early on, he did the whole, this is what it's about, and then he wore the anti-police socks. And I thought that was a little... I thought he was just trying to make a point. Like, he was trying to get splashed.
Yeah, well, you have to give one interview. If you're going to do anything, just give one interview and
do it a friendly. Find a friendly interview.
Yeah,
hell, everyone at ESPN kisses his ass.
Yeah. Right.
Sit down with ESPN and tell your story. By the way, he lost me in many ways, but on Facebook, he wished a happy birthday to Joanne Cheesmark.
Right.
She murdered a cop, a New Jersey state trooper, I believe.
Was
assassinated him, shot him in the head, fled to Cuba. She's hiding in Cuba. She murdered a cop in cold blood, and he thinks she's a hero. He's a despicable human being.
Well, the thing that, and I guess, I don't know enough about Colin Kaepernick as a person that's a despicable opinion. The thing I would say about Colin Kaepernick is that every protest has to have a demand. Like, if you're going to have a protest,
I need him to speak.
You need to have a demand that can be met. If you're protesting something and you don't tell the other side what it is that they need to do to end the protest, it's not a protest anymore. It's a tantrum.
He just wants to take a knee, be a martyr. He doesn't really want to play, and he wants all these surrogates in the media, all your Jamel Hills and
well, they'll carry his water, so it doesn't matter.
Max Kellerman's. They will all carry his water, and regardless of what he says, they will say it's noble. It's noble. He doesn't have to say anything, and he's a noble martyr. I mean, it's a joke. He could walk outside his apartment, stand on the sidewalk, the media would assemble, ask friendly questions for 20 minutes, and then you would know where he stands, what he has to say, and we could debate it.
Yeah,
but he doesn't want to. He wants to remain, what's the expression? Better to remain quiet and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to remove all doubt. He needs that doubt, but I think he's a fool.
Got you. What about Kobe Bryant?
I didn't know that's what we were going to talk about.
No, I didn't mean
I
it.
thought we were going to talk about food or something, man.
Do you want to talk about? Actually, I would love to talk about food, but what's funny on my podcast?
You want some M&Ms? We got M&Ms. We got peanuts. We got goldfish. We got it all.
We're at the Legacy Club of Boston,
That's
Gerry
right.
Callahan podcast.
Yep.
All over iTunes. I see you're on Spotify now.
Yes, we're all over everywhere. All the usual spots.
Yeah, I've had no
short
problem
video
finding it.
snippets on Twitter. Everybody's a big fan of those, Get people
Whatever
talking
it takes,
on Twitter.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that I got to believe that there's more people that want to listen to actual talk than the stuff that's on radio now. And for me, just having gotten into podcasts recently, when Corey explained to me how to download them, I downloaded yours, and it was like, I'd rather listen to that for 2 hours than listen to. It's not even, by the way, I know you said you don't listen. It's not pure sports, what they talk about. And I don't want to listen to pure sports.
I know.
But it's just pure
most of it
dribble.
is
It's just not about anything.
That's what I found. Listening in the morning, it was boring.
Right.
It was just boring.
Yeah.
And lifeless, and just didn't make me laugh, didn't piss me off. I became a podcast guy because I had to learn all about this medium.
Sure.
And it just was much easier. You have a few podcasts, you click on them anytime you want. Their commercials aren't nearly as annoying as they were, on radio, as they still are. The breaks aren't as long. It just was easier. And I said, I don't know, one day in October, I said, this is, in 5 years, radio will be completely dead.
Well, the weird thing to me is...
Because everyone's going to do this. Everyone has an iPhone.
Oh, of course,
Everyone has a laptop.
Yeah, listen on demand.
Who's going to listen when there are really good alternatives,
right?
And they know how to do it. I don't. There's not much that you can get on radio that you can't get, on iTunes or Spotify.
Yeah, of course.
That's like what happens to cable. But I just don't know because people are in their cars so much. It's like
but your phone's in your car too, though.
Right.
So
I know.
It doesn't matter.
I know.
They're all. It's in cars. In 5 years, you'll all be listening to podcasts in your car.
The weird thing to me about you getting canned And that's what
sounds
really
so harsh.
made me want to do a podcast with Avi. He's been trying to get me to do this for like 10 years.
Really?
I thought
Oh,
we
God.
should have together, him and I, because like the way you said, the way you're talking to your friends outside of actual radio, that's all Corey, myself,
Avi can't
and a few
talk.
of
Let's
our
put it
friends.
that way.
It's just-
Avi has no problem giving an opinion. So,
and there's no benefit to having a conversation where everyone just agrees. Like sitting around and going, that was a pretty great game last night, right? Yeah, no, it was a great game. I
Trust
loved it.
me.
Oh, they passed the ball. Yeah, that was great.
It's all
boring.
out of fear. I'm telling you, I know exactly what's going on. Everybody in the back of their mind is afraid they're going to be next if they say the wrong thing, piss off the wrong. It used to be you didn't want to upset an advertiser. Now you're afraid of the listener,
Right.
who's going to have, who has 6 followers on Twitter, on Facebook, is going to come after you.
Right.
And I mean, it was one guy, essentially
of
one
course.
guy who brought down Kirk and me, and we've told that story many times.
Yeah, of
I
course.
mean, the Globe helped. The Globe is,
complicit.
You're not a fan of the Globe.
Well, I mean, when it was a newspaper back in the day, I
Right.
was. Now that it's just this political rag that settles scores for its allies, I mean, and it's the home of Kevin Cullen and Shirley Leung. No, of course not. I mean, I don't know why anyone would take.
Can I tell you why I don't
anyone
like the
would buy the Globe? Why would you read the Globe?
So I don't read. I mean, I don't really, in general, read newspaper, and that was something I wanted to ask you about. But my personal beef right at the moment with the Globe, and it's petty. It's really spoiled on my part. But is I opened a restaurant, Simcha in Sharon, almost a year ago, and Boston Magazine called us one of the 15 best new restaurants in Boston in 2019, which is huge for us being 30 miles outside of Boston. But then the Globe followed suit like a week later, so a week ago. But they did it like really lazy. They did like 35 restaurants. Then after they originally put the article out, they added more to it. And they named like another restaurant that I know in the area that's just like a local dive bar that's like already for sale. And it was just like, for me, I just felt like it was lazy. And when they called me to ask me about it, I said, like, have you been to my restaurant? And they were like, no, like we haven't been out there. And I'm like, so you just call, like, it feels weird to me. And
You're
I
putting
know
an
that's a
opinion out
spoiled-
there without any
I know that's a
research.
spoiled take, but to me it was just so
that's 'cause,
half-assed.
First of all, there's hardly anyone there anymore.
Yeah,
it's,
right.
it's a shell of a newspaper. They're,
Okay.
they're losing money. They're bleeding money, and so they're laying people
Well, they don't have
off.
cars either. How are they going to
They
get to
don't-
Sharon, Avi? They don't have
Right.
cars. They can't drive cars.
Is that a fact? I mean, I don't know. That's the thing about other news outlets in the food
Public
world.
transportation only,
Sure.
right?
No,
Everybody
they-
there.
and I guarantee you, whatever reporters they have left just sit in their office or sit in their homes. They don't go anywhere.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, it's not no surprise at all.
Do you
The
miss
weird
writing?
go for
No,
it.
I don't.
don't miss
Writing's
writing?
hard. I mean, I miss having written.
Yep.
It's like running. I'm into pain. I do things that cause great pain. I write. I run. I hang out with Kirk Minahan.
Yeah,
These things that cause
exactly.
great pain. But writing was not easy for me. It still isn't. In the rare times that I do it, it's work.
So do you hang out with Kirk?
Radio was fun. Writing was pain.
Well, the thing about, back to Entercom real quick, the weird thing is, like, where's the they're a public company. Where's the responsibility
Well-
to your shareholders? That is the one that always blew
look
my
at their
mind.
stock.
Oh, that's what I
Since
mean.
they merged with CBS, the stock has been in the tank,
Right.
which gives me mixed feelings because I have a little bit of
Yeah, of
stock,
course.
but it's worthless now. It's
Yeah.
kind of sad.
Right.
I mean, it was a mistake. Here's all you need to know about Entercom is the guy who owns it. When he merged CBS and Entercom, he had a choice because he owned both sports stations in Boston. He could pick one. He could either have the station that had the Patriots, Celtics, and Bruins, or the one that had the Red Sox.
Yeah.
He chose the Red Sox, who are completely dead.
Well, he knew
Their
programming was going
ratings-
to be bad, so that's 160 nights a year, you know?
The ratings are in the toilet. The ratings are terrible.
Yeah, of
For the
course.
Red Sox and for the Patriots, we know. Like I said, the Red Sox last fall were getting 1 shares. Patriots are getting like 40 shares.
Right.
He chose the team with the 1 share because he's a baseball guy and he idolizes John Henry. So I mean, it's grim.
That's weird. You said you hang out with Kirk Minahan. Is that something like you socially hang out with?
I
always
talk to
wonder
him
about those relationships.
sometimes. Yeah, we play golf.
Okay.
Believe it or not, he's a good golfer.
Really?
But then he'll turn on me and flip out, and I'll won't talk to him for a while. Then he'll apologize because that's what he usually does, and then we'll get along again and play golf again and have lunch again. But he'll turn on me again. It's just the way it is.
Well,
just the way,
he-
life with Kirk.
What about John Dennett? Do you hang out with John
I
Dennett?
do not.
Okay.
No, that
So
did not end well.
Were you? But there was a time in your life where you guys hung out. Like-
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'll say this for Dino, and again, it didn't end well. I don't think he handled the end of the road well. It's a long story, but he was fun. He was fun. He was always full of life. He's full of jokes. you play golf with him, and you're laughing and drinking and smoking cigars and all the. He's one of those kind of guys, and never lacked for energy. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and you guys see, before Twitter and all that, I used to get my news
Thank
from you
God
guys
it
in the
was before
morning.
Twitter.
Yeah. Well, that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, for sure.
No, well, thank God. We would probably have a lot more stories, though.
No, it wouldn't have gone well if there were Twitter when Dino was younger, or me, for that matter. I mean, I'd have tweeted some stupid stuff if they had it when I was a kid.
Of course. But we used to get our news from you. You know what I mean? That used to be in the morning. What are they talking about today? And it could be a fire in Boston, or it could be anything.
Headlines. That's what we call it.
Yeah, you're not talking about the sixth inning of the Red Sox game if they brought in the right pitcher from the bullpen.
We did headlines for years. I mean,
headlines was
literally
the
20
greatest.
years.
That was the greatest segment of
always
radio
got
history.
great ratings, and the program directors invariably hated it because that's when you do politics.
Yeah, and then you continue politics
Right.
at the rest of the show.
And that's when
if
the
it was a big
phones
story.
went, and that's when the energy went up. The problem you have is the program director would rather have you talk about the bullpen because it's boring, but there's no back. There's no
Right, no
calls.
context.
But what is the program director's job? I guess I would have
It
assumed
used to
it
be
was to make money.
to get the best radio, to put on the best radio. Now it's to stay out of trouble. I can't tell you enough how that's the job, to stay out of trouble. I can tell you right now that if I were doing radio today, the day after Kobe Bryant died,
Yep.
we did a podcast, Alex Reamer and I, and Dave, and it was pretty good. We talked about Kobe's checkered history.
Of course.
We talked about all of it.
Yep.
The man in full.
Right.
You're probably not going to be allowed to do that, at least not in any detail, on the radio because you'll get the calls. Just like the Washington Post reporter who tweeted out the rape story. She got suspended by the Washington Post for tweeting out a news story about Kobe's rape case.
But that blows my
That's
mind.
true. That's
That's
true.
but
It's
the
not
thing-
frightening.
But the thing that
all
blows
true.
my-
Washington Post has no problem with fake stuff. You can make up all you
Yeah,
want.
of course.
But you tweet out a true story that pisses off people. I mean, his fans.
And it's not like nobody was talking about it yesterday.
But the thing that blows my mind about that is that there's this huge dichotomy between people who are like, if there's an allegation about somebody who's alive today, they're going to jump ugly on that. It's believe the victims. It's don't victim shame,
Right.
which, by the way, I'm in support of also not doing. But with Kobe, it's like it was terrible what happened to him yesterday. Even worse what happened to his daughter. But to me, to go out and just blindly act like because he's dead now, he didn't rape some woman in Colorado, and then afterwards, quite honestly, hire lawyers who ruined her life and publicly shamed her,
Right.
it is, to me, it's insulting.
It's amazing.
It's insulting.
And it's again, maybe she should have waited a day. Maybe because his daughter was in the helicopter, he should be more sensitive.
Well, that didn't come out
But-
until a few hours later, and that's
But
part of the problem.
You're going to do the story. It's part of his life. It's part of his legacy. I mean, it's coming up today, tomorrow, the next day. And all she did was tweet the story and say, let's get caught up here. Let's read up. It is disturbing as hell. And I laugh because the Washington Post, they're the paper that, when Baghdadi died, called him an austere religious scholar. When we took out Soleimani, they said he's one of the most revered leaders in Iran. Nothing about him, killing children or killing Americans. They somehow felt it was disrespectful to put that in the lead of an obit for a terrorist.
right.
But tell the truth about Kobe Bryant. You're going to get suspended.
Yeah. So here I'm going to
maybe fired.
I'm going to walk right into your wheelhouse here, and I'm not I really don't have a ton of love for the current president. Although I like I said, I'm middle of the road. I find myself like my friends on the left think I'm right wing, and my friends on the right wing think I'm left. But if Donald Trump, again, let's say he's out of office. Let's not do this while he's the president, and let's say he's in that same helicopter crash instead. How many of those papers are writing negative stuff about his life? They're not saying like, let's wait 2 days, let's wait a week, let's not talk about this. So to me, the fact the guy played basketball, and he was a great, incredible basketball player, maybe the closest thing to Michael Jordan in the last 20 years, incredible. But the guy admitted in a statement to raping a woman. That's something he did.
Right.
And it's 17 years ago, and he's, by all accounts, a great dad now. And, again.
We compared to a number of people today on my podcast, like Imus. Imus lost his job, his reputation down the toilet because of what he said about the Rutgers women.
Right.
And that was bad. I have no sympathy for Imus.
Yep.
But I'm going to go on a limb. There's a bold take here. What Kobe did was worse.
Oh, was it?
Was worse.
I'm with you there, actually.
There are people.
Actions are louder than words.
There are people being canceled for what they said. All over the place. All over the place.
Well, you always
follow
what Kobe did
Yep.
was, and if you don't know, read up because what he did was
Did you
reprehensible.
Did you follow the Aziz Ansari thing? Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, he was dating. He had sex.
No, he didn't even have sex. So what happened was he went back to his apartment with a girl on a date. She's naked. Her clothes are off. She's performed oral sex on him, and he's asking if they can have. Oh, fair enough. He's asking now if they can have sex, if they can have intercourse, and she says maybe on the next date, and he asks again. That's what he is being faulted for, and
he's got a lot of
himself.
defenders. He's got a lot of defenders, though. I think he's borderline. There are others who've been canceled for, I would say less than that, but certainly less than Kobe.
Right.
For saying the wrong things. Or
well, you say to Alex, what he said about Tom Brady's kid.
Alex
that will be in his obit, right?
He was
But
suspended
Kobe
for 6 months.
Yeah, of course, for
glib,
saying something.
A dumb, glib remark for which Tom Brady forgave him like 3 days later.
Right.
So tell him not
if
to
he
worry
dies
about,
today, that's in the Boston Globe story.
Guarantee it's they're going to have trouble. They won't even have his name first. They'll say pissant.
Right.
It'll be the first word in the obit.
Yeah.
It's a selective way to remember people, and I'll be curious. I haven't even looked at the New York Times. I don't subscribe, and did they lead with the rape accusations?
I don't subscribe either.
Today.
I didn't look
The Washington
either.
Post.
I should look.
They lead with that. Ooh, and also,
I haven't
by the way,
seen it really too many places.
in 2011, he used the F word to just yelled at a ref, the F gay slur.
Oh,
Sure.
of course. That's right. I forgot about that one.
That thing went away pretty quickly. I don't know. Kobe's got good PR people.
Oh, he's got a huge machine. And by the way, the ESPN did a 4-minute tribute today, and in the video they did bring up and they're getting killed for it, but they did bring it up. They didn't feel like they could do a 4-minute tribute to him without mentioning that he allegedly raped. They said allegedly.
It's part of the story.
Of course, it's part of the story.
You don't have to lead with it, and don't have to focus on it if you don't want to. But it's part of his biography.
Yeah. Well, and he's a hero to a lot of people just because of what he did on the basketball court, right? But the rest of his life, people. He's got detractors just like everybody else. So, you got to bring up that part of it. In a newspaper, you can't just talk about the good. You can only.
I called it the greatest comeback story in sports history because the comeback, the rehab of his image, and we were looking right now at the covers of magazines. He was.
Oh yeah.
On the cover of magazines, accused of a really heinous crime, violent crime against a 19-year-old woman.
Early in his career, too.
And there were other, by the way, there were other accusers. There were other accusers as part of that came forward and were also sort of
and he
swept
came
away.
back from that, and it appears like his marriage was repaired, and he seemed to be a good father and all that. He made a comeback like I've never seen anyone make. And I guess for that you give him credit, but you got to talk about what he's coming back from, what he had to rehab from,
right?
And it was just vile.
Right. I mean, I'm not suggesting he's OJ or to be topical here or Aaron Hernandez, but there is stuff that you have to mention when you talk about his tribute in his life. Now, on the Aaron Hernandez stuff, I know you said you didn't see the Netflix. The 3-part Netflix.
Nah, I feel like I've seen it all.
It is very much just rehashing the same story, quite honestly. The only thing that's I didn't see the Oxygen one, so I don't know. Did they have his high school boyfriend? They had that in the Netflix one.
Not sure. Probably not, because the guy who produced the Oxygen Network one is his lawyer, who's not happy with Netflix for outing him. But he was outed on my radio show. It was a big deal because it upset the Globe.
I was listening live when that happened. I remember that moment.
It's kind of relevant. See, now it's the motive for the murder. So that was, and according to a judge, after that, he was harassed in prison, and it may have led to his suicide. So we took credit for killing him, and I don't know why that would be a bad thing.
No, well, I don't think it was a motive for him killing Lloyd.
I've never seen
I think
that.
he's just a psycho, and I mean, it could have been. Listen,
no
it's not out of
Odin
the
Lloyd,
realm of possibility.
Yeah. Odin Lloyd did something very minor, probably, that Aaron Hernandez. So it could have been that.
Right, he
Definitely
dissed
could have
him.
been. Yeah, it was something
exactly.
very minor. I mean, they actually have so in the Netflix one, the crazy thing is they have security footage from the night the Odin Lloyd thing happened, or like the disrespect thing, not the murder. And they also have security footage the night that he kills those two people down in the South End. They have security footage of him in the club that night, and it's crazy to see the way he reacts to people and the way that he, it's like he's literally dancing with a girl and someone bumps into him.
Oh, really?
And he just becomes a murderer. I mean, it's crazy.
When did he become so fascinating? Here's my list of people on whom there's been the most documentaries, like in history, I'm going to go Winston Churchill, Abraham Lincoln, Aaron Hernandez, would be before
Donald Trump in the future.
What about Kobe's going to get a few?
Yeah, that's true.
O.J. Simpson would be in there
yeah,
too.
O.J.,
and, I don't know, Pat Tillman. I mean, when did Aaron Hernandez become so interesting?
I don't think Pat Tillman got the kind of attention that Aaron Hernandez
True,
did,
he
in
didn't.
all honesty.
He certainly didn't get the kind of attention that Kobe Bryant did.
Oh, definitely not.
Well, the one, honestly, with just Tillman real quick, the one thing I always love that no one ever talks about, but Bill Belichick writing him a letter, handwritten letter when he was in Afghanistan or wherever, and saying, you're an inspiration to so many. And I was like, Belichick, for all the bad PR he gets about, being an asshole, right?
Yeah, he wrote a handwritten letter to Donald Trump, too, and let Trump read it in New Hampshire before the primary.
That's a shock right there, too.
Yeah,
I think he embellished a little bit, though.
Could Donald Trump read it?
He read it.
Okay.
You may be right. He may have embellished some of
as
it.
he's wont to do.
But he allegedly asked Belichick if it was okay, and Belichick said yes.
Yeah.
And which is a hell of a lot more than Brady ever did for candidate Trump.
No, Brady.
Brady gets all the shit.
Well, he put the MAGA hat in the locker.
He gets all the shit. Kraft and Belichick have done much more for Trump
of course.
Than Brady did.
Well,
Brady denounced him.
Well, Avi's got 3 businesses at least over there. I mean, deregulation is the number one thing on the Donald Trump list, I think, as far as
I've never met a businessman, small businessman. Some of my friends, my best friends, a paver. My brother-in-law's in the precast.
Yeah, we need that.
Business.
We need that Shea concrete money, by the way.
I've yet to meet a small businessman who doesn't love what Donald Trump has done. Again, they don't love what he says.
So I don't love everything
tweets.
He's done, but yes, as far as it comes to that stuff, and that's the big issue. I tell people all the time, I mean, I've always voted Democrat. I don't consider myself a Democrat, but I've voted Democrat. And I've been telling everybody, I'm like, there is no, maybe Andrew Yang, actually, but other than that, there's no candidate running right now that I could vote for. This $15 an hour minimum wage stuff is death for my industry.
I think your candidate is going to be Bernie. You're going to have to choose between Bernie and Trump.
So, I mean, that's a really...
Because Liz Warren...
You're not going to like it.
Dead.
I mean, I wouldn't vote for Donald Trump, but I don't know. I mean, Bernie... I don't... Well, the thing about Massachusetts is they already instituted the $15 an hour minimum wage. No, I was just going to say they already instituted that. So the one thing that Bernie crushes me on... I mean, he crushes me on other things, but that's my biggest... I just feel like it's a lack of economic understanding. And I don't understand these politicians that have, for their whole life, collected off of our tax money, their salaries, thinking that a high school kid should make $15 an hour to bag groceries. I just don't... It makes the groceries more expensive.
What about a federal jobs guarantee? That's a good one. I always like that one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anybody wants a job? Sure. Hey, come on over.
Well, Andrew Yang wants to give everyone $1,000.
All right, but listen.
That's a dividend off of technology.
No, I'll debate you on this one,
I love that.
See, all right, so I voted for Trump, right? And Yang is the only one I would ever consider because sometime in my lifetime, right, there's going to be a crazy lefty that's president, right? So if I'm getting $1,000 a month, I pay more than $12,000 in taxes a year.
I thought you'd be
a huge tax
guy.
break.
I actually thought
tax break.
There's no such thing as a moderate Democrat. They're all radicals.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
show me one who will stand there and say, I don't support late-term abortion. Show me one, which is as radical as it gets. We're talking, you saw the governor of Virginia say that he believes in abortion after the baby is born.
I gotta believe.
That's
is that really
insane? Yes, it's on video.
That's not abortion at that point.
Right, it's infanticide. They believe in that, but there's not one who would. They don't allow that. There's plenty of pro-choice Republicans.
Yeah,
there's not a single pro-life Democrat. They don't allow it.
Is that true? I'd have to research. There's no pro-life Democrats?
None. They don't allow it. They're not welcome in the party.
No, not anymore. But as far as me getting $1,000 a month, though, in the future, that's tax money that can't be taken away from me.
So you want more handouts? That's your
no. It's not more handouts. I pay $12,000 a year in taxes.
More, yeah.
That's $12,000 tax cut.
Okay, and the guy right outside who doesn't pay any taxes.
He's already getting money. He's already getting his welfare check. He's already getting.
He's just trying to buy votes. It's just like Liz Warren saying we're going to forgive all debt. It makes no sense, but it's buying votes.
No, but that's stupid. But
I'm glad to see it backfiring on Liz.
Well, Liz Warren's almost caught by Andrew Yang.
I'm torn because I want Liz against Trump because he'll stomp her, and I can't get enough.
I do think he would stomp her.
I'm never going to get enough humiliation for Liz Warren. I love it. I love to watch her anguish. I enjoy it. But
you hate her.
I just do. She's just the phoniest human being. There's never been a phonier glimpse of a person than when she said, "I'm gonna get me a beer."
Yeah.
Would you like a
Okay,
beer?
that was bad. That was bad.
She's the single phoniest politician I've ever seen, and that's saying something.
Well, just the fact that on her, entry card or whatever it was, she wrote Native American in handwriting. It's not like you're checking a box. Like handwriting that is like.
How could any minority support her, knowing she's pretended to be a minority, stole a position intended for another minority, and capitalized and got rich? She wouldn't be in the Senate if she didn't pretend to be an Indian.
Right.
So I don't like the whole Pocahontas stuff and everything, but
I can't wait till Trump
But
takes
that is the
Trump's
actual
gonna take that
issue
test.
that turned me against Liz Warren is that without making fun of her for it or anything, is the fact that it's just so it just makes it transparent that her entire views get thrown out the window when it helps her. So to me, the whole that just flies in the face of everything that she quote unquote runs on, and then here she is going, "Oh, for me? No, I'll take it. I'll do it."
Right.
By the way, the same thing of the higher education stuff. She wants it to be free for everyone, but she wants to be paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach a class. Where does that money come from? Where does it come from if you're not charging the students?
Big racket. Big university is
Do you
such
teach any
a
college
racket.
classes?
I do not.
I feel like Northeastern. That's where Corey and I met. They expelled me, but he stayed and got his degree. They their comm department would definitely. That's not a thing that you could do.
Nobody's called.
Sports radio. We'll look into that. Don't you have a professor or something that you could call?
I think
over
they're pretty far on the left too.
I'm not qualified. So
I don't
what?
think they would ever hire anyone who doesn't hate Trump. You must hate Trump to get in any university position at all, I would guess.
But the thing about you is, you don't hate Trump, but you're also like you said, you're willing to argue with Alex Reamer on the radio about it. I feel like we can't become a society that shuts out people who disagree with our opinions. At that point, it's reverse Darwinism. We'll just be surrounded, we're taking a risk that if our opinion's not right, we're left on that island. We're just surrounded by that opinion.
Well, that's where we're heading, man. That's the direction we're heading.
Well, I don't know. That's scary stuff. So you said you thought we were going to talk about food and stuff. Is that something you're super into? Food,
No,
beer?
no.
You don't go out to eat a lot?
Oh, I go out to eat. I
Where do you like to
tell
go?
people all the time, my wife is Italian and Greek and a great cook.
Okay.
Her families are all great cooks, and if you're at her family, with her family on a holiday, on a Christmas or Thanksgiving, all you do is talk about the food.
Yep.
Talk about every friggin' food. Oh, those vegetables are good. Oh, how are the potatoes? Well, they were better last year. No, they're better this year. How'd you cook them? Where'd you buy them? And I just ready to hang myself. That's why I drink so much at these holiday gatherings. At my family, which my parents are gone and it's not what it used to be, but we'd sit around and argue about politics. We'd argue about, war and peace and abortion and gay marriage and you name it. We'd talk real things and we would eat, but it wasn't the focus of our day. Irish, eat to live. Italians live to eat. And that's the difference.
So my in-laws are Italian American. It's funny, like as an Israeli who carries an Israeli passport, and I'm first generation here. I always think it's funny when like my in-laws are like, "Well, we're Italian." I'm like, "Yeah, like 10 generations ago."
Did you have to serve for a year?
I'm a deferred member of the Israeli military.
Are you?
It would have been 3 years. So they drafted me.
Bone spurs like Trump?
No. I did it. I did it no more gutsy. But
he started talking. They're like, nah, we can't do this.
No. What happened was I'm a citizen from birth, and they drafted me, but they have a deferment policy for people that have never lived in the country. So the rule is, if I'm 35 now, I think I'm exempt now. But if I were to have decided to live there for up to a year, I would have had to go serve.
How can a Jewish Israeli support the Democrats?
I didn't say I support this. I didn't say I support the
Democrats. But you said, would you vote for Bernie?
He voted for Hillary.
That would be
Bernie,
a tough
whose
day for me.
surrogates are
That would be a
Tlaib
really hard
and
day for me.
Omar. I mean, these
So those are
absolute
two people-
anti-Semites.
Okay, but so to be clear, that's actually why I wouldn't vote for Bernie Sanders, is because this is what I think happened to Bernie Sanders. I liked Bernie last time around. I know we're not going to agree on that, but I did. He now has gone. I always say that the progressives have gone so far left that they're the true quote unquote right if being right is bad. If they're the ones that won't listen to other people's opinions. So no, Tlaib,
Right.
Omar, AOC. Those are people that I think are pandering to true fanatics. And,
those are true fanatics.
And it's dangerous and it's violent. And as far as their whole anti-Israel stuff goes, no, I'd be lying if I said that doesn't make my blood boil. It pisses me off to no end. And a lot of Israelis, almost all, support Trump. And I support Trump in his take on Israel. For me, it's a hard thing. I just don't agree with him on social issues, and I don't agree with his rhetoric. So for me, it's hard to get behind him. But I will, like when he hit Syria for gassing their people, I was one of the loudest voices of the people I knew saying that's the right move. Listen, you got to applaud him. If Obama did that, you'd erect a statue. It was a beautiful thing to do. When the only thing I think he did wrong with Soleimani is admitting it. That was a very Israeli thing to do. Would have been to do exactly what he did, and then just be like, "Oh, we didn't know he was in the Iraqi airport. Why was he in the Iraqi airport? Oops." And I just think it was weird. His ego gets so far in the way.
Sure, but you got to separate it. What he says and what he tweets, separate it from what he does.
So I do a pretty good job of that.
Is good.
And I don't think, I mean, for the most, there are things that he's done that are great. I disagree with him on illegal immigration. That's an issue that I take pretty serious. That he's pretty hardcore on. As a son of an immigrant,
your father's an illegal immigrant?
He's not now. No, he's not an illegal immigrant at this moment. He's an American citizen, has been for 40 years.
Then he's not illegal.
Well,
so
but
what
when
are you talking about?
Well, no, but when he came here on a work visa and stayed.
So it was illegal.
At one point in his life, I'm sure he has to have been illegal.
I doubt it.
I'm fairly confident that he was. I don't know what the ramifications.
Was he on the dole? Was he on collecting?
Never. My dad always worked his ass off.
What are you talking about? He's talking about people who come illegally.
So can we keep illegal immigrants if they're not on the dole? Can we bridge? No?
Get in line.
No, you have to enforce your laws. That's what you have to do. You have to enforce your laws.
There is no line here in El Salvador.
What laws would you like to support and which laws would you like to ignore?
So to me, I would love to be really hard line on illegal immigration and also make it possible for somebody fleeing El Salvador to try to get asylum without having to go through Mexico and cross. I mean, that's the reality. These people aren't trying to live here.
What are we going to pick them up in a helicopter?
No, we could have an embassy where they can go apply like they could in France. They can do that in France. They can't do that in El Salvador. So that's why they pay coyotes. They cross Mexico, and you know what the first thing they do when they enter the U.S. is?
They can get asylum in Mexico if they want. They can get asylum other places. They don't have to. They don't have to get a hit.
They want to live in Mexico. That's a great place.
Well, what's wrong with Mexico? What are you, a bigot?
No, I'm not bigoted. Politically, Mexico is a very it's a disorganized, unsafe place to be. I wouldn't vacation in Mexico.
He actually did. He changed his honeymoon. He was going to Mexico, and he changed it to go to Disney.
Yeah, because
10 years ago.
It was no, because the week of our wedding, they beheaded.
I've been to Cancun. It's awesome. And then I saw Sicario. I don't want to go back. Sicario scared me.
Well, they beheaded the mayor of Cancun the week of my wedding, and the travel advisory from the American government was Americans shouldn't travel in Mexico.
And an obvious solution is let them all in.
Yeah,
There's people that are like killing kids.
No, I don't want to let those people in. I don't want to let those people in.
So you're going to say, you guys can all come in, but you real bad guys who cut off heads, you stay there. You stay there.
That's exactly what I'm going to say.
It's just insane. Think of the logic behind that.
See, but
we want those hardworking dishwashers because you own a restaurant.
My dishwashers are all high school kids, and they're not hardworking. They are not hardworking. They're not hardworking.
You want to let them in.
None of my cooks are Hispanic
not the
either.
Cartel guys. I mean, how do you distinguish? You get in line. That's what you do.
So to be clear, I don't employ illegal immigrants, and I also, my business philosophy happens to be employing people who can make a career out of it and have families and whatnot. But that's just selfishly as a business owner, I find those people are someone that I can build. So I do have a couple Hispanic employees, but they're American citizens. They've lived here for a long time. I don't believe in breaking a law just because you disagree with it. That's not something that I believe in. But I do believe in trying to get the law changed.
Yeah, but when there's, you got to classify, DACA recipients and illegal immigrants. The left has them all in one category. You know what I mean? If you're brown-skinned, then you're all part of the same group.
They've gone so far over the top, and it's good because they can't win as long as they keep on going over the edge, where they want to give reparations to illegal aliens. Reparations.
Okay, that I'm not in favor of.
Joe Biden said it.
I believe that, but I'm not in favor
said
of
it. Reparations. It wasn't enough to give them all free health care. And every candidate raised their hands when they said, you want to give them free health care. Everyone raised their hands. They took it a step further. That's the way that's going. And by the election day, it's going to be insane. They're going to be like, give every illegal alien, a house and a car and a boat.
Of Christ's sake.
They're not going to. It's not going to end. They try to out-extreme each other.
Yep. So to the podcast thing, to talk more about the Gerry Callahan podcast, do you find so that's you're in charge?
I'm in charge.
Okay,
his name's on the show.
Is that incredibly right? But unfortunately, there's a lot of people in radio whose names are on the show and who are not in charge. That's true in the restaurant business too. Do you find that like being the boss and not having that third so it's just you, the listeners / advertisers, and it's not this like third party that has to worry about things and make decisions for you? Is it freeing?
It's absolutely freeing. It's liberating. It's a pain in the ass too. There are things you don't want to have to do, like selling, and promoting. But
well, now that you're up and running, I'm sure getting it up and running is like a lot of the
it used
hassle.
to be, like we talked about earlier, program directors and general managers, we're all on the same page. We're all looking to get good ratings and, finish number one. That changed. Kirk Minahan and I literally sat with a vice president of the company, and he said, we don't care about ratings anymore. We have to stay out of trouble. And we went, holy shit. I mean, that's probably when we knew it was over.
But wasn't the trouble that you would get way different for you and for Kirk? Like, as a listener, for me, the thing about you is we knew what to expect. So your opinions might piss some people off, they might not, but someone tuning in knew what to expect from you. With Kirk, like, some days it was like, oh, let's talk about mental health and let's be super compassionate. And then some days, let's wish that other people die and let's say these, like, outlandish things.
I mean,
that's got to be scary for a radio boss.
He was definitely scarier than I was, but the one activist that brought everyone down hated me as much as he hated him. He
probably just hated your politics. Isn't that probably what it was?
Yeah, that was part of it. And he literally would listen every day, transcribe the show every day, and email every one of our advertisers every day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Greg Hill, and I've never spoken to him or anything like that. But listening to his radio show, one of the funny things is every once in a while you get this glimmer into his, like, he'll share like a thought that's sort of political, and I think he probably leans exactly the way you do. He just doesn't he just doesn't present that he's very it's contrived.
And I never knew it was that way. I mean, it just feels lifeless to me, and you're not getting any. There's if you know what to expect at all times, it's easy to tune out.
Sure.
It's like a column, like in the Boston Globe. Every columnist, you know exactly what they're going to say about everything.
Right.
And you just don't read it,
no.
unless it's Dan Shaughnessy or somebody that occasionally will have an opinion. You don't read it. In a radio show, if you know it's a safe space, if you know that even if they say something dangerous, they'll push the button.
Right.
Then you're not going to listen. You're not going to miss anything if you sit it out.
Right.
Well, so one thing that happened last week, and I mean, I'm not saying that people should be saying, I don't like saying the R word. I mean, it's not a word I support, but I can say it out loud. I don't know that people should be saying retarded, or they shouldn't. I mean, I guess I would lean towards they shouldn't, but someone must have said it the other day on their radio show in the morning, and it became this like panic moment. Like people were like, "Did you drop that?" And then Ken is like, "Yeah, I dropped it," and it just became like mayhem. And I was like,
I mean, well, the New York Giants cut the guy for saying the R word, tweeting.
Right.
The R word.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's weird because there will be a time, maybe not in our lifetime, when that's not a word that's off limits. I mean, if you look at the evolution of playground insults,
sure.
I think imbecile used to be like a clinical term, and feeble-minded, that's what they used to call people in insane asylums. I think idiot was even a clinical term. I think that word, when you said retarded, I think there'll be a day when it doesn't have any.
Well, I think the issue,
it just becomes a dumb playground insult.
But I think the issue is, and this goes back to the whole Aaron Hernandez, like where you get jumped on for what you and Kirk and Michelle McPhee had to say that morning, was more that like it's not, no one cares, at least I hope no one cares whether you insulted Aaron Hernandez. It's the thought that like the joking is offensive to somebody. Like if I call you gay, it's not just that I'm offending you, it's I'm insinuating that being gay is a negative. And I think that's where probably the word retarded is. It's not that like yes, if you call someone who is challenged retarded, it's incredibly offensive. But if you throw the word around casually, I guess
but
it's also. But we do that with a lot of other stuff.
It almost doesn't. It's almost the meaning has changed. You don't.
Sure.
You don't actually call people who are developmentally disabled retarded.
Right.
That's an antiquated term.
No, of course not.
And it's become a dumb playground insult. And the problem is the people using it are like seventh graders. And they're going to grow up and they're just getting used to it. When you hear it, and I coached kids a lot, and
football,
you hear
right?
them say it. I did football, baseball, basketball, and you'd hear it and be like, it's not appropriate, but they don't mean, it doesn't mean to them what it used to mean or what it's supposed to mean to people's mind. Just like when you'll hear people say that, oh, that's gay, or you're gay.
Oh, that was the big, when we were growing up, that was.
You can't say that. I mean, oh, okay, I won't then. I mean, it doesn't mean what we think it means to those children on the playground.
Sure.
Right.
But the funny thing about this whole culture nowadays, the cancel culture and people getting offended, is that when you're around people, I mean, my twin sister's openly gay. I have gay friends. no one's offended. Like in a private conversation, there's a lot that can get said, or even just like in a group setting, that no one would jump ugly on. Like people that are not offended by that kind of stuff, jokes that get thrown around. And I think that we're in a culture now where if you do that publicly or you do that, there are people out there just looking to be offended. When I went to get a wholesale license years ago to get falafel that was certified gluten-free made, the state inspector told me don't put the words gluten-free on because there are five people.
Same thing happened to me when I was trying to get my falafel license.
No, this applies though. There's 5 people.
What's a falafel?
There's 5 people in the country. They told me who just buy stuff, have it lab tested till they can prove a claim's not true, and then they sue you. And so the point is, like, we live in this culture now where it's like the people that are offended probably aren't even related to what you said. They're just they sit around, they listen for people that they can hold hostage, and they can go, oh, that's offensive.
The way it worked for us is he would harass these advertisers, and the local people were good. They knew us.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But the national people didn't even read it.
Yeah, well, they don't know.
Because they don't want to get involved.
Right.
Oh, this guy's talking about transphobia. Let's stay away from that.
Of course.
And he knew it, so he just took everything we said out of context, bombarded them over and over and over, and eventually they gave up. He wore them down. And that's scary because he could do it to anybody.
Well, I think it's more scary that the Globe actually helped them. Like that's brutal.
What did the Globe do? I don't even know.
The Globe literally called our advertisers. They had an editor who called our advertisers and pressured them to pull their ads. I mean, that is by any standard unethical by any journalism standards. But for whatever reason, they get away with it. John Henry, gets away with it. He runs that rag, and no one's going to call him up because he either controls, he controls Nesson. I mean, he owns Nesson.
Right.
He controls EEI. He owns the Globe. He controls the media to the point where it is frightening around here now. Evan Drellick, one guy that challenged him, lost his job. He was at NBC Sports Boston.
Right.
And he challenged the Globe and questioned the relationship between the Globe and the Red Sox. He got the boot. They fired him.
Did you know? Now, I always was under the assumption that once Kirk was officially gone, that you'd probably be okay because Kirk was the one. John Henry's a puke and nonstop. So I thought maybe you could.
No, I tried to get Kirk to stay and said that you just stop calling John Henry.
But once he was gone, did you know you were gone? You were
yes,
following him
because
out the door? Because they put you with Mutt.
No, because the one guy who was harassing us didn't stop.
He didn't stop.
They hoped he would stop.
Right.
But he didn't. He just kept coming, and then we'd lose this advertiser, and it'd come. And I saw the emails. It's incredible. There's not one thing in those emails that I regret. Not one thing that's offensive. He just took it all out of context and made it look offensive. And he made a deal. Eventually, this is how pathetic the company was. They made a deal with him that if they got rid of me, he would go away.
Right.
And he did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how it ended up?
Yeah. They made a deal with
Well,
the
they're
guy.
not going to say anything offensive now, so it doesn't matter. I mean, of course,
But
the
he
big bad
could.
nose
Fourier's gotten in trouble before.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I mean, people can make, Mark James.
Yeah, but no one's listening now, though. So
that is true. But if he wanted to, he could continue to take everything out of context. But they shook hands, made a deal, threw me, overboard, and I guess they're happy now. Nobody's complaining. Nobody's listening, but nobody's complaining.
Are you approaching when you talk to advertisers now? Are you? Is this most people know your story? I'm assuming that.
Yeah, I mean, I just mostly deal with friends of GCP.
But as you get bigger, though,
we'll see. I mean, the guy harassed some of Kirk's advertisers on Barstool, which was unbelievable.
The same guy is still. Yeah. So what is it?
Yeah.
He just doesn't want you guys to be able to work again?
Right. He's insane. He's
But Kirk's at the right spot for it now because I think.
Right. They stood by him mostly. I mean, I think he lost one encounter, but which is fine. They stood by him.
Yeah.
Is this someone who?
Hey, I went to it, but he held a rally out in the guy's town.
Yeah,
in
that's
Sherborne.
Right.
And as far as we know, that really worked. As far as you know, he's gone quiet since then.
Right.
Is this somebody who you've ever had a personal conversation with?
Yeah, I had to sit down. Are you kidding me? We did everything the guy asked. We went to friggin'...
was that civil? Was it a civil conversation?
Yeah,
or was he an asshole then too?
No, it was civil, but he...
Yeah, but as soon as you leave, it's
I mean, literally, I thought, we worked it all out. We went to sensitivity training. We did a podcast talking about it. We did PSAs against transphobia and bullying.
Yeah.
We did everything he asked, and we assumed he was going to do what we asked and just leave us alone. He didn't. And all we asked our boss to do was sue him. Just go fight back, have our back.
Of course.
And our boss literally said he couldn't do that. It would look bad, a big company going after one man.
Would your boss ever, they obviously then wouldn't consider suing the Globe either, huh?
God, no. They couldn't. My boss idolizes my boss. My old boss idolizes John Henry. Never.
These people all run in the same circles. That's the thing. It's you're not gonna separate one from the herd.
Our old boss idolizes John Henry, while John Henry's editors were calling his advertisers and leaning on them to cancel their ads to cost us money, and our guy wouldn't fight him, wouldn't take him on. It was very, very, and it was obviously an indication that he wasn't going to have our back in the end, and he didn't.
Well, in the end, we lose as listeners. I don't mind Lou, and I don't mind Christian Fourier.
I think it
Glenn,
all sucks, to be honest.
In general, it's just boring.
Stations.
Like, it's just boring.
I like those guys.
Yeah, I like
Glenn's
those guys.
a good friend. I like those guys. But, I mean, I'm a podcast guy now. I got my whole
of course.
lineup of podcasts.
Well, at least Glenn and them, I'll put it this way. The day that Robert Kraft, got caught down in Florida, I remember turning on Felger and Maz on TV, and they were literally talking about the last 2-minute report from the Celtics game, like the official report.
I think they were told they couldn't talk about it.
Yeah, that day, and which is, I mean, it's like, who would ever give that directive is one thing. So I would love to see the daily listeners, because I'm sure everybody in the city listened to Glenn that day, and of course, they'll at least talk about things like that. But still, they're pretty sporty too. They're going to talk mostly sports too.
Right. I mean, and they're they've all had their times where they were in trouble, and so they're all
and
they all know.
You know what happens? Then Glenn will go midday, Dale will go to the afternoon, and they'll just keep rotating every couple of years. You know what I mean? Until
I don't know. It's a good question what the future holds. I can tell you one thing: the Red Sox are dead. The people aren't listening.
Right.
That's going to be an albatross around their neck. But I don't know. As long as they're don't have any trouble, I guess they'll be happy. That's what they wanted: no trouble, and they're not getting in any trouble.
It's got to be hard to make money that way, though. No, I mean, are the ratings good?
No.
I didn't think so.
Terrible.
Yeah. I didn't think so. In fact, I think the other stations. So both stations belong to the same people, though. Now, right?
No, they had to split. He got his choice, and he picked EEI and sold off.
He picked EEI and then got rid of what EEI was.
Yep,
basically.
Which is just, I don't know. That's bonkers.
But John Henry will still invite him in the box a couple times a year to watch a game with him, and that's what really matters.
So on the Gerry Callahan podcast, are we going to try to get more guests, political candidates?
Yes, we are. Although I hate guests just for guests' sake.
Right, of course.
Yeah. Like all
if there's a topic.
Just have, and a lot of podcasts do that. They just say, today we have whoever. It works for Joe Rogan. It doesn't work for everybody. Yeah. But I would like to get, candidate Trump on. We had him on.
I remember. I listened
4 years ago.
I remember that. I actually remember that.
From New Hampshire. But we're working to get Tulsi on, the only Democrat. I wouldn't mind Andrew Yang either.
Yeah.
Tulsi or Andrew Yang, but
Andrew Yang. We've talked to Andrew Yang's people, and actually, there's a tiny chance. There's a food truck owner, a guy that owns a big company here in Boston, that was one of Yang's really early supporters. So he's pretty entrenched in that camp, and we think there's a chance that we might get to talk to Andrew Yang.
Good.
So I'll try to connect. I would tune in immediately to listen to Gerry Callahan talk to Andrew Yang.
He looks like a genuine guy.
Oh, he's normal. Yeah.
The video of him with the 2 axes, the axe throwing video went viral and made him look like just a good guy, a fun guy.
Yeah. Right.
And
the thing about
he's a Democrat, so that means he's an extremist who would destroy the economy. But
that's the Gerry Callahan that I love listening to.
No, he gives the money to you. You get the money.
He's the only Democrat I think who doesn't hate America, which is a big plus for him.
I think not hating America is definitely important.
He
if
should
you're
just do
run
ads.
office.
I don't hate America.
See, the problem with him is
that might not work.
He has to fight with all these other people on his side to win a primary, so he's got to.
But there is no winning the Democratic primary. They decide. They pick towards the end.
I always say,
who do we like, and they pick that person.
There's a dozen or 15 up there. If one of them stood up and said, "You people are all nuts.
Right.
Enough with the free crap. Let's stop with this giveaways. Let's stop talking about this stupid Green New Deal. We have people out there, who want good jobs and good wages and put their kids through college, and stop with this nonsense about the world's going to end in 8 years."
Then you would vote for a Democrat?
I would not, but but wouldn't he stand out among the rest of the nuts?
For sure. I mean, you can't say.
I mean, they all agree on partial birth abortion, and the world's going to end in 8 years. Everything else is superficial.
Wait, that's right. You don't believe in climate change.
Of course, I believe in climate change.
Okay, cool.
So the world changes.
I mean, the world's not going to end in 8 years.
Changes.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
No, I don't believe.
And I don't think $94 trillion is going to solve that problem.
I don't believe in destroying the U.S. economy to to fight it. The dumbest thing in the world is thinking that if we get rid of a certain kind of light bulb, or we recycle, or we get rid of plastic straws, that we're going to affect the temperature of the Earth. India and China are the ones doing the damage.
That is
They're not on board. It doesn't matter what we do. I think the best thing we can do, in fact, we've made great progress. I mean, I don't know, you're not as old as I am, but it used to be, people littered. People used leaded gas.
Right.
People didn't care about little things like, the room temperature. They kept the temperature of the room, things like that. People are taking baby steps, and it's making it, a cleaner country, but it's not affecting the climate of the world. I mean, it's just silly.
No, there was one, I think, Northern Ireland. They had trouble. They didn't have a government for like 3 years. And they just put a package together a couple weeks ago. And part of the package was some action against climate change. And it's like, this is a tiny country, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's probably bigger issues, I would say.
Well, I say that all the time. Like, every time the mayor of Boston, Manuel, speaks, he talks about climate change.
What are you going to do?
You're a friggin' mayor.
Right.
What does a mayor have to do with climate change, or a governor?
How do you feel about paper straws?
They're evil.
I hate them
They're
so
evil.
much. They
Well,
ruin
it's
my iced
people,
coffee.
You liberals,
Me.
yes.
See,
I
that's
can
what I'm
tell.
saying. Liberal. I'm a liberal now.
Paper straws.
No, I
You're
said I'm
just
anti-paper
silly.
straws. I asked so that I could jump ugly on paper straws.
Right.
Not everybody's the enemy, Jerry.
Avi likes to think he's partly conservative. But
I am
Every
There are
single-
things I'm conservative on. For example,
Israel.
the partial birth. I have 2 children, and to me, I believe that at 18 weeks, when we found out the gender, that to me, that's a human being at that point for sure. I can't say that it's not before that, but for me, at that moment, I believe that that's a human
Well,
being.
then you're out. You can't be a Democrat.
I don't consider myself a Democrat. I just don't
You're
go.
out. But you'd consider.
You identify as a Republican, right?
Or,
so I just don't.
Unless
do
there's anything to right of them, whatever.
yeah, right.
You would go further right. There is people further to the right. That's like AOC. She's so far around. She's come back around.
Right.
Yeah.
AOC is the leader of the Democrat Party now.
Which is really sad and scary for
She's
America.
as dumb as this.
So.
This jar of M&Ms I got in my hand. But she's leading
I don't
the
disagree
party.
with that.
Leading the well, although she said we had 12 years left, and Bernie amended that to say we have 8 years left.
Well, that's because
And
he's
idiots
closer to
out
the
there
end.
going-
He's closer to
and,
the end.
We have a whole generation of kids who are like, they love him, support him, and they think the world's going to end. I'm like, how does that exactly work? The world ends. They don't know. Yeah, but there are wildfires in Australia. Yeah, set by arsonists.
Sure.
But there was a hurricane in Mexico. Yeah, we used to have those 100 years ago before the Industrial Revolution. We had hurricanes. I mean, it's just people are falling for it. It's just a way to give up, to cede more control to your government. It's very discouraging.
Have you ever seen the AOC Netflix thing, the documentary or whatever it was?
God, no.
So it's actually you'd love it. It's so what's interesting about it is it's shot in real time.
You'd hate
and
watch it, I
She was
guess.
handpicked. She was like handpicked. People don't realize this about her. Her whole story is made up. She's not like she grew up privileged, and they just made up this whole story because they wanted to target this one like relatively middle of the road rep. So they handpick her, and in her early days they have live footage of her in like some hipster's apartment talking to like 15 of his friends, and she has just this canned speech she's giving, and they start asking her genuine questions, and she can't answer them.
What
And it's
is
just
the
amazing.
name of this podcast?
This Heat in the Kitchen.
Heat in the Kitchen. You have more listeners than she had voters. She literally was put
I don't
in
know
office.
about that.
Not yet,
She
but on the way.
literally was put in office by 16,000 people
Right.
in New York City in a absolutely disgusting district.
Well, they thought they were getting Amazon jobs until they hired
And they
her.
knew it was a one-party district. They weren't going to. So she ran in the primary and won with I believe it was 16,000 votes. And now she controls the world in these people's minds.
Wow.
She's as powerful as the president. She gets 16,000 votes.
Crazy.
Well, that's why. And then with Bernie, right? I'm surprised how many people actually do support him. Which I see his people fighting with Yanks people all the time. Yanks people like at least will debate you and whatnot. But these people like
Why Yang doesn't want to destroy the economy? Is that
he wants
why?
to give the people the money.
Right.
Right. The poor people already get the money. Jerry.
Corey is a
that's the
huge
thing.
Andrew Yang guy. So
I
does that
voted
make
for
him a
Trump.
liberal?
Listen, I voted for Trump, and I think in my time, like I said before, there's going to be someone who is going to destroy the economy, and it'll be political suicide for them to take that $1,000 a month from me. Once they give it to us, they can't repeal that because that person will never win office again. So I think in the future, $94 trillion is going to the Green New Deal. Well, at least I'm getting my $12,000
You just lost
tax
Jerry.
cut.
You just lost Jerry. You just lost Jerry.
It's a $12,000 tax cut.
There's not a single person out there who supports the Green New Deal and thinks it's a good idea. Nobody, unless you're an idiot or just a
Right.
total lunatic, true believer. Nobody wants that. The economy is good. When the economy is good, people's quality of life improves. When they have jobs and money and education, their quality of life improves. That's more important than getting rid of cars. The leading candidate, by the way, Joe Biden, wants to get rid of cars.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Wants to get rid of cars.
Is that a thing?
That's all you need to know about the Democrats right now. This moderate guy who's been in Washington for 50 years wants to get rid of cars.
Well, I can't support him because I have cars.
Listen, all we need is one super volcano, and then the climate's okay for another 10 years, and that's all it takes. You know,
who cares if it gets a little warmer? Wouldn't that be good?
Yes.
I'm not a scientist. I don't know.
No,
I'm
but
not
super
either. I wouldn't mind to get a little
Freakonomics.
I mean, do I like the warmer weather? Yes. But
Good. So do I.
That book was 2009 Super Freakonomics, and they lay it out. You know what? After 9/11, when there were no planes in the sky, the temperature actually got warmer just because those vapor clouds that planes, emit, they didn't block the sun. Okay? There are no planes in the sky, so the ground actually got warmer. There was a volcano in 1991. It lowered the global temperature. Super volcano, right? Did we have anything to do with the super volcano going off? No.
People
Of course
just take
not.
that
It's
as,
natural.
they take that on like it's real, like it's legit. Say, oh, look, a hurricane. Global warming.
Right.
Oh, look, it's warm. Global, it's cold. Global, I mean, they don't know. People don't know. They just believe what AOC,
Australia
an absolute
bushfires.
moron, tells them.
Australia bushfires. Oh my God! Look at Australia's on fire. It's been on fire its entire existence.
Bernie Sanders used to care about workers, workers' rights.
Right.
Now he doesn't care about workers. He legit said he wouldn't agree to any trade deal unless it includes Green New Deal legislation. So in order to get Bernie's support, you have to destroy the economy. That's it. And by the way, he used to believe in borders too. So now he believes in open borders and ruining the economy.
That's another Andrew
And he's
Yang
got
thing,
all these
strong
people,
borders.
these celebrities supporting him, and Joe Rogan, and all these actors and actresses, and Mark Ruffalo's, and all these idiots who's supporting him. A guy who literally says we must destroy the economy to save the planet. An absolute canard if I've ever heard one.
Well, they're going to eat themselves anyway because he got Joe Rogan's endorsement, and then everybody was up in arms. Joe Rogan's a racist.
I didn't even know Joe Rogan was a bigot until I heard that.
Yeah, right, exactly. They'll eat their own.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough on comedians these days. You can't. They make a joke. I mean, then there's so much stuff in their background. I mean, Eddie Murphy goes on SNL and he has to go back and apologize for things he said in Raw. In the middle of all that, he did a bunch of kids movies. Right. Like at what point were they? I mean, he became like a loved family icon, and they didn't care about Raw then. They're gonna put him on one episode of a show that nobody watches anymore, and they want him to apologize for anti-homosexual things he said in 1985 when that was the commonplace. I mean, it was just different.
What? He used the F word. The F
Yes,
word,
he
the
did.
same F word that Kobe Bryant used. It didn't seem to haunt Kobe.
He
So
gets
this
mad
is
at
heat
me.
in the kitchen.
This is heat in the kitchen, and we appreciate your time.
I wish I, could talk more about food, and it's just
No,
not
it's
my
okay.
thing.
So my thing is, every episode, I want to talk life, sports, politics, and every episode we get like a chef on or somebody in the beer world,
We had
and
Andre
they don't know
Tippett on.
sports.
Andre Tippett was our big get until
Yeah.
we got Gerry Callahan on.
Yeah, and Andre's cool.
Andre,
Really cool. Do you know Andre Tippett?
Of course he
Sure.
knows Andre Tippett.
Yeah, of course.
He
No, I
told
know he
us a
knows who
story
he
about
is.
getting arrested in college. You believe this?
No, for what?
For stealing under a no stealing sign.
It wasn't stealing. That's an unfair thing to say. He took a milk cart,
don't
a
tell the
leftover
story.
milk
People
cart.
have to
He
go
was-
listen to the episode.
Andre Tippett was in his prime. Say he was, 40.
Yeah.
How many people on planet Earth could beat him in a fight? Of 8 billion people, how many could beat him?
So he told us that there's
Maybe-
no one on the current Patriots roster that could take him in a fight right now.
Right.
And he works
so
with
maybe,
those guys.
whatever, the heavyweight champ, whatever, is Tyson Fury, or maybe some great
No, but he's got that martial arts.
MMA guy.
He's like
I
an
mean,
8-time black belt or something.
There can't be more than, a couple hundred people on the planet Earth that could take him in a fight.
Right.
Yeah.
No, he's an absolute monster.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And
You should see if he'll help you out with that guy that's calling and trying to get rid of you guys.
Well, we had those kind of offers.
I'll bet. I'm sure by text messages.
it's
Who was that
better
guy?
this-
Albert
you
and
know,
whatever. What was that guy's name?
Trust me, it's better this way. We will look back and laugh and say, thankfully, we moved on.
Yep.
Because I feel like 5 years from now, there's going to be no sports, no radio. Everyone's going to be listening to podcasts.
Right.
It's going to be dead. The medium will be dead, killed by activists and their friends at the Globe around here. But it's dying everywhere.
Right.
It's dying.
You have a stable of co-hosts that you're going to stick with for the fifth.
We're always looking. Yeah, we got a few, but always looking.
Very cool.
I mean,
Well,
I've
any
listened to every
suggestions?
episode. I've listened to every episode.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm available. Avi's probably not available. He works too much.
I would make an exception if that day ever came. This is one of those career highlight moments. I'm
He's already
a
got.
very
Yeah,
big
he's
fan
already
of
got.
yours.
He's already got his liberal on the show. He doesn't need another one.
Yeah, I'm not. Alex Reamer is better at this than I am. I like to think
Alex
I can cook
Reamer
better
is
than
a
him.
true believer. He's a Bernie guy through and through, even
Right.
though he's Jewish. he supports
The funny
Bernie.
thing is, he's a hard worker, it seems, so I don't
I know.
understand.
He is a hard worker, and he's a capitalist.
I think it's like, as people get older,
He's
though,
an ideologue.
he'll yeah, exactly. He'll slowly get this way, I think.
Right. It's like they say, if you're not a
I think
liberal when you're 18, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative when you're 30, you have no brain. I guess I have no heart because I was never a liberal. Never one day in my life. I never voted for a Kennedy. I never
When you were
voted.
20 years old, you were this
I was
conservative?
at UMass, this conservative, fighting 1 against 20 every night in the dorm.
Wow.
They
They hang up BDS posters all over UMass now. That's like a thing they do. That
Right.
upsets me a lot. So.
No, but I was like Ted Cruz. He was at Harvard, fighting all the liberals and learning to debate. I was doing the same at UMass.
Well, I like you a lot more than I like Ted Cruz.
You don't even know Ted.
I don't
either.
I don't really know you that well, but I like listening to
He's
you
going
more
to play
than I like
Andrew
listening to
Yang
Ted
one-on-one.
Cruz. Ted Cruz
You know
is
that.
rough.
Andrew Yang one-on-one. Ted Cruz versus
We're
Andrew
going
Yang.
to work on
In
getting
basketball?
Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
Really? Are either of them good at basketball?
Well, Yang plays. He's
Bernie Sanders plays too. It's a little weird, but I will.
What about Pete Buttigieg? He knows what a basketball court is like.
basketball field?
Yeah, he
We
said
will,
basketball field
I will
yesterday.
tell my guy Callahan to get on Yang because you're right. Maybe he'll do it before next week, 2 weeks from now.
I
think
think
he would.
Kirk's tried. He said. And,
Oh, really?
And but you know what? I bet closer to New Hampshire primary. Once I was done, then it's New
New
Hampshire.
Hampshire, they all come on, but as soon as New Hampshire's over, they're gone.
I also think he'd be more likely to come on this than on Kirk's, just because, again, you know what to expect from Jerry, and it's more of it's going to be an intellectual conversation. You're not going to get pranked. You're not going to get crapped all over.
And
You're just
some
gonna have
people
to
are
debate.
afraid of Barstool. Some people are afraid of Kirk. That's
Sure.
the way it works. But
Well, I
don't
think
know.
he already went on a Barstool one or something.
Did he?
I maybe not. I could be wrong.
I don't know. We're going to try to get Tulsi and try to get
Yeah.
Yang.
They're
and
the only
then,
one- they're
and
the
then
only
general
ones that are
election
normal.
comes along. We'll try to get the
Yeah.
big
get the big
Hunter
the
Biden.
big fella.
That's the goal, to get Hunter Biden.
That's the
Oh,
goal. Hunter Biden's the goal.
That's
If I
that's
could
the
interview
Republicans.
anybody today, anyone in the world, it would be Hunter Biden.
Yeah,
That's
well, that would be a
scumbag.
great get.
I mean,
okay.
just
Have you started tweeting at him?
It's a good question. I don't even know if he's on Twitter.
I got to believe he's on. Or on something.
I don't know. But he was caught in L.A. over the weekend, getting out of his $150,000 Porsche with his pregnant wife and going to the Waldorf Astoria for lunch while stiffing the mother of his child in Arkansas. The stripper he knocked up, he won't give her any money. No support, no child support, nothing.
Wow.
He's fighting, and he's buzzing around L.A. in his Porsche, and nobody in the mainstream media gives a shit.
I love that New York
crazy.
Post article. I think it was the Post. They wrote how 5 of Joe Biden's family members got rich.
Yeah, it's
And
these-
there's-
the
they
new-
laid it out there's no
It's
debate.
incredible. The new Peter Schweitzer book is incredible. Joe Biden's family is as corrupt as the Bulgers.
It's
And hopefully
bad.
some people will read it. But yeah,
Where's the paper
crooks.
record on that one?
And by the way, so's Liz Warren. In that book, they talk about Liz Warren, son-in-law, who does business with the government of Iran. He's in business with the government of Iran, making movies. There's stuff in there you won't believe in this book. I've just read reviews that it will blow your mind that the media ignores, has no interest in covering, just scandal after scandal. And one guy's got a book about it, and they won't even review the book or interview the author. They'll just ignore it.
What, you ever going to write memoirs?
I could only write one memoir.
One memoir.
Yeah. How many memoirs?
What do you think I am, Barack Obama? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm busy putting a podcast together now, Corey.
Yeah,
Come
it's
on.
a great podcast. And,
Thank you.
And again, it's thank you very much for being on with us. This is like I said,
an
this
extra
is a
hour
hi-
out of your
a
day
highlight.
right here.
And I've really enjoyed listening to the podcast again. It was a sad time in Boston when we had to go 7 months without you on any airwave. Is that right?
July until January. Yeah.
At least
Yeah.
Kirk was on at least.
And,
So that hell is
Just
over.
different, very different. I'm a Kirk fan to some degree. I don't listen to his podcast. Maybe I should.
Well, then
but
how could you call him a
But I've been
fan?
a Jerry. I've been a Jerry fan for a long, long time, and just hearing your voice back on the airs in some form or another has been amazing. So thank you very much for being on with
I
us.
appreciate it, Avi. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is Heat in the Kitchen.